Okay, back to here first off. Can you focus on this part? What we're going to be talking about today is how to look at a wildflower. I mean, if you look around here, there's a lot of white flowers. And if you went back and tried to decide, oh, I saw white flowers, what were they? You would find the task pretty difficult at best. But we're going to use, this is the key that's used in the Newcomb's Field Guide. And I've used this for a long time. My students would identify, this one's a little bit on the bad beat up side, but learn to identify anything we came in contact in the field. And over 20 some years of them using that book, there was only a couple of plants that they couldn't identify, and that's because they were introduced. So the book really worked well, and after students learned to use the book, they became very good at it and very confident in the field. So there's 3 questions that you always ask, okay? So if in the front of the book, the first question is the flower type, and I have choices. They're either irregular flowers, they're regular flowers with 2 regular parts, 3 regular parts, 4 regular parts, 5 regular parts, 7 or more regular parts, 6, 7 or more, or the parts are indistinguishable, you can't tell. So I have to ask that question first. And looking at this plant, Doreen, how many, what would you say for that first thing?
I see 6, I think, 5 or 6.
Count more than one, sometimes.
I see 5.
5 would be our first number. So our first number, 5 regular parts. It's regular because it's all the way around. If it's more petals on one side than the other, then it's irregular. And we say flower parts because we'll see a flower today that you're not looking at petals, you're looking at bracts. Or if you look at a dogwood, you're looking at bracts. They're not really petals, so they're flower parts. So anyway, flower parts. We got a 5 is our first number. The next thing is plant type. We either have a wildflower, a shrub, or a vine. What do you think?
Wildflower.
We got a wildflower. Okay, if we have a wildflower, there are no apparent leaves. There are basal leaves only. There are alternate leaves, which means one here, one over here, or there are opposite leaves. Now, you're going to have to look on the ground to see the leaves on this one. So what's your choice for that?
Basil.
Basil. On the bottom, and any time in the guide that the flower has a separate stalk from the rest of it, basil would be your choice for that. So if that's a basil flower, our next number is 2. So it is 5, 2, and the third thing we're going to ask is leaf type. There can be no apparent leaves. The leaves are entire, which means the margins or edges are smooth, or the leaves are toothed or lobed, little projections, or they're divided, which means there's a bunch of parts to it. And we'll see all of those samples today. So what are we choosing, BJ?
I forget.
You could have entire, which means the edges are smooth, or tooth, which means they have little lobes, or tooth
Yeah.
is right. So our third number here is a tooth, it's 3. So I have 5, the flower parts. I have basil, which is 2, and I have the leaves that are tooth is 3. 5, 2, 3. If I go to the finder code, which is on this side, and I only have a short sample there, in this book, I'll get some more choices, and it should put me on the right page to find that plant, if we do it right. I probably should have brought a better book. I'm just so this.
That one is well loved.
Huh?
Well loved.
Yeah, this one knows things other books don't know. It's been out in the field so many times, but it's starting to get a little bit. What did we say? 523. Okay, I go 523. The leaves are toothed or lobed, and I have three choices here: flowers in racemes or spikes, flowers in umbels or branching clusters, flowers growing single or in 2 and 3 in a cluster. And I would tell you that this one is a branching cluster. You see that? If it were a spike, they would be kind of even up the stem. If it were raceme, it would be even up the stem, but they would have little stems on them. So this is a branching cluster, and it tells me if I have that, then I should go to page 180. And I would let someone else do this normally, but since we're doing safety, I'm going to do all the touching, and BJ has on the gloves. And I go over to page 180, and I see early saxifrage. And over here, I look at that saxifrages, early saxifrage virginiensis. Is it a native plant? Yeah, it's of Virginia. And it's very early white flowers. And we're high rocks and shaded banks. And we're basically standing here on a shaded bank. And we're going to see a lot more of this over by the cliff. But that's our lesson for today. A good look at our early saxifrage. They like this rocky cliff. We're going to see a lot of that as we go along. Yeah, and we have cleavers in amongst it, which is a wildflower. Galium. Okay.